Hello and welcome to today's webinar on steering of roaming, prioritizing quality assurance in the 5G era. My name is John King, Commercial Officer at Kaleido Intelligence. I'll be your host for today's webinar. It's fantastic to welcome you all today. Many of you, you're very familiar with these webinars, and it's good to have you back with us. For others, I think we can see it's your first time, so a very warm welcome to you, especially today, if it's your first time on one of our webinars. And if you are new to these webinars, these are very much educational sessions that we put together to help inform on the key topics shaping the future of the roaming industry. So over the next 45 minutes or so, we will be sharing new insights with you. We'll be having, I'm sure, lots of provoking discussion. It's all designed really to help yourselves being the operator community, as we address, I think, how we best enable high quality roaming service. So really, utilizing the advancements that we're seeing by new technologies and how we can use that to meet the evolving, not just demand, but also the expectations, from both the consumer and the enterprise, roaming customers as increasing use cases emerge. So that's very much what we plan to be covering with you and go into over the next 45 minutes. And in a moment, we'll do a quick recap of the agenda today, talk a little bit about the underlying insights and how you can be engaging with us. But before that, as you can see, we have some very much we like to call expert panelists and voices with us today who will be sharing their views at different points of the webinar. So let's allow them to give an introduction to themselves. As you can see on the screen, we have Ilanha Tidhar from TOMIA, we have Mark Kellerus from T-Mobile, we have Grzegorz Olejniczuk from BIX, and we have Nitin Bass also from Kaleido. So as it's fantastic to have you with us today, and this is the time where I invite you one at a time to come off mute and give a quick introduction to your roles within your respective companies. Ilanha, let's start with yourself.
So I'm Ilanha Tidhar, leading the product and R&D part of TOMIA business unit. Glad to be here and share my thoughts.
Thanks, Ilanha. Mark, we'll let you go next.
Yeah, thank you, John. It is a pleasure to be here. My name is Mark Kellerus. I'm working as the Director of IoT Roaming and Global IoT Connectivity for T-Mobile USA.
Perfect. Thanks, Mark. Grzegorz, now your turn.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Greg. I work in BIX as a product manager for 5GSA and signaling value-added services, including steering of roaming.
Perfect. Thanks, Greg. And Nitin.
Yeah, hello all. Great to join this fantastic panel today. I'm Nitin Bass, Chief Analyst at Kaleido, focusing on travel, roaming, and wholesale research areas. So yeah, looking forward to a discussion today.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. Very much looking forward to all you have to share with us during today's session. And I think let's move on now to look at the agenda and give a quick overview of what you can expect if you're joining us today. And if we look through the agenda, let's move item 1 on the white paper introduction just to one side. We'll come to that in a moment. That aside, we're going to split the I guess the main bulk of our time today into 2 parts. So the first part is really about sharing new insights with you. And we're going to do this through 2 different voices. So Nitin, firstly, will be sharing new insights from Kaleido's underlying industry research, on this topic, specifically, looking into the topic of quality of service and also the role of steering and analytics within that, building from the research we do here at Kaleido. More on that in a moment. And then Ilanha is going to build on from there, really sharing on how they see this from TOMIA's perspective, from when you look at actually how do we go from, what we see the need from the industry to actually enabling that, and how do we see that panning out with the different challenges and the advancement of 5G, etc. What does that look like? So, obviously, TOMIA work with and help enable a lot of MNOs around the world, and so Ilanha will be sharing insights that they see from that work that they're doing. So, and that will set us up really nicely then for the second part of the webinar. And the second part of the webinar is all when we will get into the panel discussion. Greg and Mark will come and add their voices alongside Ilanha. And as you can see on the screen in front of you, we'll be digging into 3 different areas. And for each one, we'll have a series of questions for the panelists, to really get into these areas. The whole goal being to help add extra insight as we discuss this. So we'll hear those voices, and we want to hear your voices as well, just over written format. So as we go, as we present insights and you're triggered and you want to ask questions, or as we discuss and you have questions for our expert speakers, we want to hear from those today. Please use the chat feature. So again, bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you'll see the chat icon. Very simple process. Just open that up, type away as we go all the questions that you have, and we'll have that Q&A time at the end, when that's where we'll be aiming to cover those questions. Yeah. Perfect. So before I hand over to Nitin, very briefly, let's just go through the paper that comes along with this webinar today. So as mentioned, these are educational sessions. And so alongside the webinar that we're doing today, we're also launching a new industry report. As people joining us today and registered for the event, you will be first to have access to that report. What to expect in that? Fairly simple. It's going to build on the analysis that we're sharing with you today. So building on the insights from Kaleido's side that, as you can see on the screen, well over 100 unique MNOs around the world take our surveys year-round on all different topics shaping roaming. So there'll be findings from that, but then building beyond that to look at the different drivers of QoS, the challenges, looking at what that looks like as we're moving into 2025 and beyond with use cases, etc. That'll be coming your way. Keep an eye on your emails for the follow-up mails from this event. You'll have a link where you can access the white paper form, and the recording from today's event will come with it as well. So you'll have hopefully some good resources to help inform your internal strategies. Okay, I think that's the housekeeping elements done. So let's move on to the first section and dig into the insights. Nitin, I'll hand over to you.
Great, thanks, John. Hello all. So as John mentioned, my purpose today is to kind of set the stage for our panel discussion on how operators need to increasingly focus on quality when it comes to both enterprise and consumer roaming use cases, and how innovations in analytics, in real-time monitoring, steering, precision, and accuracy, all of these will come together to help achieve this when it comes to your next generation roaming services. So firstly, you need to start with 5G. 5G is expected to become the primary mobile standard by 2028 across the world. Operators are steadily, some would say slowly, transitioning from 5G non-standalone to 5G standalone. We're seeing more investments in 5G core. Been a bit slow this year, but we're seeing some of the operators around the world transitioning from 5G non-standalone to 5G standalone in their domestic markets. Now, when it comes to 5G roaming in the NSA mode, it's widely available. I think as you can see, 5G is available in around 90 plus countries. 5G non-standard roaming is available in 90 plus countries. But when it comes to the future of 5G roaming, we believe when it lies with 5G standalone. How it will enable IoT, how it will bring advanced capabilities such as ultra reliable, low latency communications, and also in the future network slicing. So there is a lot of activity happening in the back end for 5G standalone roaming initiatives. We seem to be really close to commercial services, perhaps in 2025. But as you can see on your screen, from our latest 2024 wholesale roaming survey, a third of operators are still kind of undecided on their 5G standalone roaming strategy. But others are either prioritizing 5G non-standalone deployments or actively preparing for a future transition to 5G standalone. Now, secondly, if you move to the next slide, please, John, the need for multi-roaming. So multi-roaming, as we've touched upon in the past, has become essential for operators to enable those high-quality roaming, voice roaming services, considering 2G, 3G networks are gradually being phased out around the world. If you look at the first half of this year, I think we have around 131 operators who have shut down 2G, 143 have closed their 3G networks, but an additional 88 and 100 plus operators who are planning to do so in the near future. When it comes to VoLTE, we have 350 plus VoLTE networks now live across 140 countries around the world in domestic markets, with VoLTE roaming now available in more than 90 countries, from 188 operators. So significant progress being made in terms of VoLTE roaming. A number of operators still are in the process of launching VoLTE roaming. I think with many are planning to complete their rollouts by 2024 or beyond. But what you can, as you can see from the chart, kind of underscores the importance of VoLTE roaming in the transition to a fully 5G enabled world. Now, the third topic that I would like to touch upon today is roaming is also essential for meeting the growing connectivity needs of the cellular M2M or the IoT sector, where we are seeing steady growth once again. We are forecasting over 450 million IoT roaming connections in 2024. Enterprise customers raised their expectations from connectivity providers since the pandemic, right? And that means roaming managers face, both opportunities, but at the same time challenges. You're looking at, if you're looking at trends within the IoT roaming side, you need to understand the new monetization models for IoT, the demand for quality of service when it comes to these enterprise and IoT use cases, and also how to support any emerging technologies within this sector. So post-pandemic, we've seen the importance of IoT roaming. We're seeing operators prioritize IoT-specific agreements. Legacy monitoring methods are struggling to differentiate between these kind of devices, so connections versus new solutions or new analytics or device management platforms that can enable accurate IoT IMSI detection for better services. Now, bringing all this together, if we move to the next slide, what this all means is that for roaming managers and for the roaming business units around the world, ensuring quality of service has become very vital from both the consumer and enterprise use case perspective. Guaranteeing that reliability, guaranteeing that connectivity experience across not just your legacy networks, but also future networks has become more important while you're facilitating a smoother transition to, let's say, next generation infrastructures. At the same time, though, when it comes to advanced applications and use cases that are being tested and trialed right now, especially in crucial IoT low latency applications where brief disruptions can lead to significant issues, there is an immediate need to focus on resilient multi-network solutions assisted by, let's say, real-time performance management and advanced steering to maintain that quality of service, which is essential to remain competitive in a connected roaming industry. Now, as you can see from the chart, 74% of the operators who took part in our latest analytics survey prioritized effective quality of service management for diverse IoT devices and network slices, which kind of once again emphasizes the need for solutions that ensure consistent service quality. So moving on to the next slide. Okay, so I just shared about managing roaming quality and customer experience, right? How it's essential for operators, how it affects customer retention, satisfaction, and overall business performance. So you are looking at advanced analytic solutions these days that are well equipped to enable operators to optimize revenues, enhance their offerings, prevent fraud, and also maintain network quality. I think we will further discuss what it means to maintain the network quality, what quality of service means it very shortly in the panel discussion. But in a competitive market, real-time tools to troubleshoot, to alert, and understand root cause analysis are crucial for minimizing any service disruption and managing those customer trust. 70% of our audience, of the operators who took part, recognize this importance of quality and SLA management in building customer trust, to be more proactive rather than reactive to issues going forward. So on that note, I'll take a pause. I'll hand it back to you, John, and then come back to you guys later for the panel.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nitin. It paints a really clear picture, right? I think when you look at the responses from the surveys of just that, heightened importance, and necessity, of quality of service and using these real-time, these analytical tools to help enable that. So we see that, from the operators who take part in our different surveys that we've been running through the year, and then it feeds up, I think, very nicely into what Ilanha is going to come and share with us now in the next section, which is really then looking at not just the trends they see, from TOMIA's perspective in the industry, but then move into the how, how should we be going about this, using steering to enable quality of service, but not just now, but then as we're looking towards the advent of 5G as well. So on that note, a perfect time, Ilanha, I think, to hand over to yourself and let you take us through the next section on the perspective from TOMIA's side.
Yeah, thank you. The next slide, I think. So guys, if until now Nitin shared with us some interesting insight in general about roaming, especially in the 5G and focusing for 2025, I really want to focus on a steering of roaming. Yeah, and you may say steering of roaming with us with almost 20 years, right? So it's nothing new, but possibly you can tell us new. So I really hope that maybe some surprises you will discover here. So let's start with the obvious trends and how they lead us actually to what is expected today from the steering platform and why it's actually above the usual expectations. So one of the trends is, of course, coming from the technology evolution, right? It's clearly that the 2G and 3G sunset is growing, right, and will continue to grow in 2025, which immediately will lead us to treat maybe the steering platform different in case of the VoLTE-only networks. And then eventually, of course, following a transition to 5G SA and new methods that expected to be done for the steering methods. And we will see first of them rolling out during this year. So this is the technology aspect. The IoT continued and growing, right? The new B2B business models coming with the new steering requirements. Actually, I think today, some of the operators decide not to do any steering for the IoT devices from several reasons. Yes, it could be a reason not to touch the relevant quality that those devices need to have, or maybe some afraid of how certain device will react to different steering methods, which lead us to the next one. Not everyone need to be steered at the same flat way, right? So the complexity is growing, the segments, the amount of segments, and with that, how actually you define your segments. It cannot be anymore a flat definition or pre-definition in advance. So everything become an online clustering, online decision, and then attachment to the right policy for the right segment. And with, in general, growing and roaming in general, of course, the platform evolution is required, right? So the scalability, the very high capacities should reduce the cost, of course, especially for the group management. Today, we expect from the steering platform to be able to do a different functionalities at the very same platform. We can see the trend that asking for many different value-added services, not just the steering, and especially steering, at the very same platform, again, to reduce the cost. We can see also the trend of operators deciding to move the value-added services to the cloud. And next, please. So the one, next, so the VoLTE. So if 2 years ago we will have this discussion, I would say, guys, VoLTE steering, VoLTE is with us, we need to steer them differently, and it all was just, our thoughts. Here is not the thoughts. Here is a result after more than 2 years experience on live, different steering for the VoLTE-only network results. So let me just share with you the result and maybe some assumptions for some of the operators that thinking that different steering for the VoLTE is just nice to have. maybe it's gonna change. So here it's a result of steering of two different operators in the same country. Surprisingly, it's United States. No, it's actually not surprising, right? Because they was the first that shut downing a lot of 2G and 3G networks in some areas. We can see actually really money translations. Why? Because we see a target deviation. Eventually, the steering platform that treat everyone the same in the countries with a VoLTE-only networks have a deviation in the steering targets, yes, which immediately translated, of course, to revenue, right? And we can see that the ones that decided to apply the logic, it's very accurate. And what is the reason, actually? The reason it's pretty clear, because here the thing is to do the right match between the device that not supporting the VoLTE and to attach him to the network, not to attach him to the network that's supporting a VoLTE only. Because in this way, if we are not aware, if we do not have the online decision about both capabilities, the network, the visited network, and the device himself, we will not be able to do the right attachment, and we will waste our steering attempts to not do the right decision, which will cause this leakage, let's say, in the deviation and will mislead the business targets eventually. Another aspect is more related to the quality, not just for the business, is the fact that those devices eventually will be stuck in the VoLTE-only network without a capability to do a voice call. And this is just one example. We can go to the next slide, please. It was one just example of the adaptiveness, right? Because what we see in here, an example of a VoLTE, it's not flat decision. It's an online decision. We can see in this slide some insight that's saying very clearly that in a 5G era, the consuming of the data is growing, right? More data, more revenue. And probably it will, the consuming is growing because of the quality of the network. So let's continue to the next slide. So by saying adaptive steering, quality is one of the aspects, very important one, but not the only one. Here is actually a transformation of the steering platform to the new era of saying it's a flexible thing. Here's just an example of three different, we can say targets, we can say aspects of need to be addressed dynamically, adaptively. So one of them is the improvement of the user experience from the steering himself. And it could be done as analytics, online analyzing of some different events in the system that happen as a result of the steering. For example, a registration duration need to be considered as a KPI for the decision. Coverage loss incidents in specific areas. Maybe they point to the specific area quality, low quality, right? Minimizing these jumps inside the session duration between the different networks. So same thing need to be done also for the partner networks. This online analytics will help us to do a scoring for the networks from different perspectives. One of the perspectives is those KPIs that I just mentioned, like a registration duration, the coverage loss, and so on. So the aspects of the roaming himself. Another is the data session. Today, the data is everything, right? So we by analyzing for example, the ratio of the data session creation on the signaling level, or calculate the average of the data usage for specific network, will help us to create and scoring for the networks that eventually will help to take the right decision by taking into account a third pillar as well, of course, the dynamic clustering or dynamic segmentation of devices. By saying devices, a human device, IoT device, maybe the KPIs for the decision to cluster them to specific segment would be different, those KPIs. So this dynamic capability to create an online segment and then to take the segment, to attach it to the right steering policy, this will bring the right result. The right result that expected in the new era. Next, please. So just few use cases. So we'll translate all this words that I'm saying to some real example. Yeah. So no data usage recently. What does this mean? It could be that we need to assign those examples of those devices for the fact that maybe they stop consuming the data for X hours, possibly from the reason that in this specific area we have some coverage issue, and then the action need to be applied differently. But all this comes as a result of adaptiveness and analytics that created only. Another two cases, it's low data usage, almost silent, or it could be different use case, but eventually it could be eSIM, it could be just a silent roaming that they use at the Wi-Fi, but eventually we can use this and assign them to the network that's scored by us, but the system as low. And the same, of course, for the high users. It could be IoT devices. Maybe it's more important to attach them to the steering and to the networks that marked as scored with the high quality of service support. Next, please. And if we discuss this adaptiveness that with us already, even for 4G, even for 3G, it's a new era. Volta is one of the example. So 5G SA coming to us with the new challenges. Some of them, let's say, pretty expected one, right? Of course, we support the steering platform to support steering in the 5G SA, right? And there are two steering methods. One of them, let's say, more traditional approach by actually manipulating the registration attempts. And another one is the new standard defined by 3GPP, more similar to what we used to call OTA, right? Not used to call, it's still there, which is actually sending the preferred network to the SIM to device himself during the registration attempt. But the new thing is that it's effective immediately, not like the OTA. Now, and the next slide, just to help to illustrate what is our thoughts about these two methods, there is some buts on the steering AF, and I'll of course share my thoughts about that. We honestly think that the first rollout steering method will be the signaling based one. If we can see, and it's not a technical slide, so sorry for this diagram, but we can easily see steering platform here integrated only with this with SEP, right? As a SEP vendor by ourselves, I can say the only thing you need to worry about is to validate that your SEP provider will allow you this let's say a routing and an integration to the steering platform. But basically this is it, because there is no other preconditions. So we truly believe that this will be the first method to start with during the rolling out the steering and 5G SA. The second one is actually the new thing. The majority of the decision here moved to the UDM. The UDM, actually, he's the one that's responsible to access the steering platform and ask, please tell me, what is the preferred network? So we need the UDM to be able and to support this functionality. It's one dependency. Second one, it's the AMF that receiving this new message need to support that, and eventually the device. Now, I believe not all the IoT devices in once will support all the 5G. It will take time. Eventually it will come, right? But we believe this three dependency of UDM capabilities, AMF capabilities, and the device is actually will take this method to be the second one. Also, some small point, we are not sure, it's not defined in 3GPP, how often the UDM will decide to take the decision. Maybe it will be too late for us. But those things was kind of obvious expectation from the steering platform. And here I am coming to maybe something that today looks, we can go to the next slide. We come in with the new challenges, with, let's say, new expectation. Now listen carefully, if someone still wake up. So, two new capabilities that I want to introduce to you that from our perspective is expected from the steering platform is to address the slicing challenge. Why it's even a challenge, yeah? we all discussed, we are aware that slicing will come in a 5G networks. There are 3 default slices, and all the rest will be defined by each network by themselves, right? No one's saying it will be the same slices between the different networks. And obviously in the roaming, to match between them, it's a challenge. They are sharing completely different business interests. The home network, what he's here is, of course, to keep same level of quality during the roaming as he was promised in the local, right, domain, and also to address the same SLA as he was committed to the enterprise. From the other side, the visited network want to reduce or limit the resources on the slide. So next please. It will be easier to understand on this slide. Actually, this nice diagram taken from the GSMA, not created by me, but here is the thing. So functionality number 1 that expected from the roaming is, first, awareness of all the slices exist in all the networks. Then, taking into account this awareness, the right matching of the quality between the home requested by the home and the visited, and then eventually to take the right decision for the steering. I will assign my device, especially for IoT, it's crucial. I will assign my device to the network that can allow me the same quality that was promised at home, right? Next, please. So here is kind of a summary of what we have discussed with adaptiveness of the steering platforms. You can see in the nice pink, I think, pink color, the new inputs that added to already big list of different inputs for the steering platform. And new 2 things, the device requested slice is one of them. The awareness to inventory of all the visited network slices is the second. And then the rule decision and additional rule decision, of course, on top of the existing. It's not coming on top, but the business is still, target still there, right? Is to do the right match and eventually the decision, take the action to assign to the right network. Next, please. And the second functionality, which is above the usual expectation from the roaming, is actually to do some steering on demand, which is presented even today, but for the different use cases. In case the IoT device, for example, didn't get the relevant guarantees quality and the slice, we can consider to move into the different slice in the same network. But it could be that there is no different slide at the same network that can answer my request for the specific quality. In this case, the steering platform is expected actually actively to move him from one network, to steer out it from one network and allow attachment to another with the relevant quality. So this is it, and we come into the summary slide, what you need to remember. So steering, it's no more a flat decision, just business targets. It's much above that. Analytics are crucial for online segmentation on the different aspects, subscribers and segments, right? That will help us for different results. Quality is one of them, but not only. Volte steering only network is another. And the next one is the 5G slices. It's something also we should expect from the system to be addressed in the 5GSA era. So I hope it was interesting one. This is it from my side.
Ilana, thank you so much. And for those of you listening in, if you know, Ilana shared a lot with us, you know, in a short space of time. There, so if you're listening to that and thinking, oh wow, I need to recap and go over that, that's exactly what the recording's for the webinar, which will be coming to you later on. So again, keep your eyes on the post-event emails for that. And a reminder as well, if there's further questions that you have that you want to share, please do put them in the chat feature as we go. You might well have more coming up as we now go into the panel discussion. So I'm going to hand over to Nitin. Nitin's going to lead this section. And of course, Mark, Greg and Ilana will now give their views on different points. So Nitin, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Ilana. So I think we've set the stage for our panel discussion today. But I would like to take a step back. And I think for our audience today, it's kind of important to understand quality of service in roaming and whether indeed analytics or improvement in steering can enable more efficient roaming services for consumers, businesses, and enterprise customers. So let me bring back our panel. Guys, take yourself off mute. I'm going to start with you, Mike. In order to enable our audience to understand this better, how do you define quality of service in roaming? And how does quality of service, the definition of quality of service, vary for different customer segments? When I say customer segments, I mean like consumer versus, let's say, IoT enterprise use cases.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So when you look to quality of service in roaming, it refers to the ability of an MNO to provide consistent and reliable user experience of their subscribers, even when they are using a partner network in a different country. So the quality of service for different segments does rely on consistently managing the following 4 factors that impact the experience, which are the data speed, the latency, the coverage, and security. So let me give you a few examples of quality of service for different customer segments. So consumers typically prioritize high data speeds for activities like streaming video and browsing the internet. They also expect voice calls to be clear and reliable, which requires the use of VoLTE technology. First responders, on the other hand, need reliable, low latency connectivity to support mission critical communications and applications. So we as T-Mobile launched T-Priority, which is a solution that leverages our 5G network slicing to provide first responders with prioritized access to the network, ensuring they have the connectivity they need even during emergencies. So those varying needs of different customer segments means that operators, and we as well, are increasingly relying on real-time analytics and steering technologies. So real-time analytics help us and operators to monitor network performance and identify potential issues before they impact the customer or device experience. And of course, that is a change between the varying different segments. Steering technologies, on the other hand, allow operators to dynamically route traffic to the best available network based on predefined criteria such as signal strength, network congestion, and quality of service requirements. So in summary, with the adoption of 5G SA roaming, network slicing, and advanced management techniques like adaptive steering, operators can meet the diverse quality of service requirements of their various customer segments, paving the way for new and future use cases and revenue opportunities.
Great. Okay, Mark. I think I do agree with you on how quality of service, should be handled differently across those networks, across those segments that you just mentioned. Ilanha, I would like to quickly touch upon this with you as well. And also maybe you could expand this further by saying how this kind of aligns with commercial targets for roaming business units.
Yeah, so quality is always nice, right? But the business is important as well. So here is actually the magic, right? And I've touched it a bit during the presentation. It's actually about this magic match between the right network and the right segment without compromise the business. In general, the idea behind this is the following. We are saying from whatever decision the decisions they took as a result of analytics, of online scoring, a decision about the different quality capabilities in the different areas. By the way, I'm not talking about networks only in a very generic way. It could be a specific MME, specific VLR that have a certain quality and another one a different one. So, but why we're not compromising the business results is because naturally, when we're looking on the business target on the country level, if one area actually struggling with the quality and we allow to register, let's say, to less preferred network, then automatically the system and the second area will actually increase the assignment to other networks, and the balance will be kept. So this is all about balance between the business and the quality.
Understood. And very quickly, just coming to you from an IPX perspective. Let's say you're working on this at BICS as well. How critical is it to ensure quality for your customers? There's a lot of activity towards 5G standalone roaming. We kind of previously discussed how this will probably happen in 2025. But when it comes to those customers, how critical is it to ensure quality?
So I think that first of all, when it comes to quality, it's cross-domain. You should provide good quality in 2G, 3G, 4G, and in 5G SA as well. So that's cross-domain topic. So saying that from IPX perspective, I would say that each and every party, they are just simply critical on the path. It means that visited network, IPX, one or two that are in the middle, as well as the home network, they need to really rely on each other. They need to provide good services. And sometimes it's just simply about having redundant paths on the physical layer. Sometimes it's simply network that you need to check, signaling, or IPX transport. That means the topics that were touched by Mark when it comes to data speeds for end consumers, they are just very sensitive to this. If they cannot connect just after landing on a plane, they are not able to connect while the other party and the other person, the plane, they're already connected. That is pretty much frustrating. And of course, like people, they may say, it's because this network is it's not doing good, right? But we all know that probably it's because of the steering, right? So definitely we can adjust. We can take a look for VIP roamers, different segments in a different way. They may require a different approach, and not only in steering but also in measuring the quality. So this is extremely important. What I'd like to emphasize here is that if we are like shifting towards 5G SA, it will be even more important. Okay, so that's a very strong message that I'd like to pass. There's one sentence that describes that perfectly, is that in 5G SA, one size does not fit all. Okay, so with this network slicing features, with all those use cases regarding visual critical services, vehicle to vehicle or vehicle to everything, satellite communication, latency for roaming breakout, mobile private networks, there will be, I would say, extreme number of use cases, and the quality also must vary depending on which use case we are touching. So definitely new challenges will come to all the parties, visited networks, home networks, and IPXs in the middle, of vendors as well, of course. Yeah. And for certain groups, this quality will be simply more crucial than for the others.
Yeah, I mean, Greg, I like the way you've explained it beautifully. I think it's very timely for us as well to introduce our next theme for today's panel discussion on how can you then use, I mean, all of you mentioned analytics and efficient steering services. How can we use that to enhance your network performance and management, especially, as Greg just mentioned, becomes more critical when you migrate towards 5G standalone roaming. In our recently concluded analytics MNO survey, I think over 70% said that, alongside real-time analytics, intelligent automated steering policies were essential to maintain quality of service across consumer and enterprise use cases. Ilanha, I'm going to bring you back in just to understand how can this, you also mentioned analytics in your slide deck. How can this then break down the complexity of something like IoT roaming demands? When it comes to IoT roaming, the demands of the network is completely different to the consumer. How can then this help operators address that complexity?
So we all understand that, even I've mentioned that some of the operators today not doing any steering for the IoTs, right? Because this is how important the quality that we want to provide to some IoT devices, because obviously there are different nature of devices. Some of them require very high latency. By the analytics and analyzing the behavior of the device and online segmentation him to the high usage, for example, segment, we can online assign him to the right network, the network with the right quality, which this decision also can be taken online, right? So it's again this online scoring of all the parameters, and then complex decisions that actually can be taken only online, and not some of them can be taken as a predefined, but it's obvious this is not what discussion about. So the analytics help us to do those decisions actually online and assigned to the right network with the right quality. And of course with the slices, it should go to the right slice as well, so it's above this the future.
Okay, understood. I'll bring in Greg quickly because, at BIGS, Greg, you've been trialing 5G standalone roaming with your partners. So I just want to draw on that experience, expand your experience with it, and perhaps help our audience understand what strategies can they pursue or think of to enhance their networks to meet these, as we just discussed, the varying quality of service need as per the use cases.
Indeed, BIGS is trialing with many different MNOs for 5G SA. I need to admit that nowadays, of course, we'd like to see more acceleration in this topic. But we know that like VoLTE, BC, still there are some struggles on the market, and definitely operators they are more concentrated, they are more focused on finding the proper security model that is offered by 3GPP and GSMA. So taking all that into the consideration, definitely the strategy for the next 3 up to 5 years, it's something which is, I guess, a hot topic at MNO level. Domestically thinking, of course, there were a lot of investments to buy radio spectrum and upgrade to 5G core network. So this has been done. We see more and more, and that's also what you showed, Nitin. The adoption of 5G SA domestically, it's really increasing. I would say that nowadays, if you're going to different countries, you can see 5G SA on your phone. That's of course that's 5G NSA, right? But still, we need to think that for end consumer, that's all, I would say almost there, but it's not exactly on the network level, I must admit. So when it comes to the strategy of MNOs, what we observed is that they are still seeking for use cases. Definitely the ones that we already mentioned, like mission critical services, Industry 4.0, that's extremely important. And then I would say the fraction of all the use cases that are valid for 5G SA in domestic traffic, fraction of this is also it will be valid in roaming simply. Maybe not this year, but definitely in the next 2, 3, 4 years, we'll see the huge ramp up for this. So maybe to help somehow accommodate and prepare for future, I would definitely recommend making sure that the security constraints that are brought by 5G SA, which is I would say secured by default, are considered enough. Also, when it comes to those specific enterprise segment of customers that are willing to use different functionalities of 5G, including slicing, operators, they will need just to be more flexible and understand what they can do on their network. So the choices, they need to be really wise, and then they need to foresee not only the future for like 3-5 years, but maybe even 10 years. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, and I agree that for some of the operators, this means a lot, but we also see some operators not investing or planning much in terms of quality at all. Mark, your thoughts on whether you agree with what was just shared by Ilanha and Greg, and now that we've kind of established what it really means to focus on use cases, focus on quality across those use cases, do operators need proactive network management or quality of service management to ensure that high quality experience across those different industries, especially when, let's take automotive, for example, with an IoT roaming? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, for sure. There is a growing importance of seamless connectivity and guaranteed quality of service as the 5G adoption expands and industries increasingly rely on mobile networks, especially for critical applications. So let me give you some examples why proactive management is so crucial. So industries, as you mentioned, automotive and IoT, often have specific requirements for latency, bandwidth, and reliability. So connected cars, they rely on real-time data transmission for features like assisted driving and collision avoidance. Then you have, on the IoT side, industrial IoT applications that require ultra-low latency and high reliability for seamless communication between machines and sensors. Yeah, think about the fracking side, yeah, where you have a temperature sensor or a pressure sensor that has a 10 seconds delay. That means that that whole fracking site can blow up. Yeah, so both those examples need proactive network management so that operators are able to continuously monitor and optimize their networks to meet the customer needs. Yeah, IoT use cases expect a similar quality of experience to their home network, yeah, regardless of their location. Yeah, so proactive network management, including real-time monitoring and adaptive steering, enables the operators to ensure that there is a consistent performance and to avoid disruptions as devices move between those networks. And then the roaming introduces additional security complexities as well, as devices are now connecting to unfamiliar networks. Yeah, and proactive management involves implementing robust security measures, such as encryption and authentication protocols, to protect the user data, which is extremely important, and to ensure the network integrity. Yeah, and 5G SA is designed with that security in mind. Yeah, it's incorporating features like end-to-end encryption that will enhance the roaming security. So in the summary, yeah, we think, and I think, the proactive network SLA management is essential for all operators to deliver high quality roaming experience in the new 5G era. Yeah, by implementing robust monitoring, adaptive steering, security measures, and by collaborating effectively with the roaming partners. Yeah, and in that way, the operators can meet the evolving demands of various industries, ensure seamless connectivity, secure seamless connectivity for their subscribers, and grow their business.
Yeah. And Mark, do stay with me. And to our audience, we understand we're running just over time, but bear with us for some key insights or recommendations on what does this mean for the roaming community? You know, what your focus should be in 2025 and beyond. So, guys, let's move to the last theme. Let me bring you guys back one by one, and very shortly, what recommendations will you give mobile operators on what to focus on in 2025 and beyond, how to manage those critical priorities. Bear in mind, we have MNOs around the world, big and small, with varying degrees of roaming maturity and focus areas. Mark just touched upon how we need to ensure that we remain agile and responsive. Sorry, perhaps responsive is not the right word. Not be reactive, but be proactive in this fast evolving dynamic 5G roaming market. So Mark, let me bring you back on first. What does this mean for the roaming community? What should their focus be in 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, so we have discussed a lot about quality assurance for enterprise use cases, and that operators need to prioritize several key areas in the coming years to stay competitive and relevant. Yeah, and to meet escalating global demand for data. So let me touch on 4 priorities that seem important to me. Yeah, so First of all, and perhaps that's a little bit strange for many because they don't have a lot of 5G NSA yet, but I think that the acceleration of 5G standalone deployment and migrating away from non-standalone is very important for all of those quality parameters. Yeah, leveraging the network slicing for tailored services and revenue growth, implementing proactive network and SLA management, yeah, to support all of those use cases for enterprises and IoT use cases, embracing new technologies and collaborating with partners is very important as well. This ecosystem to build up. You can't do everything yourself. And let me dig a little bit in deeper in two of them. So why is migration from non-standalone important? So while 5G NSA provides faster data rate, it does fall short of realizing the full capabilities of 5G, such as network slicing and ultra-low latency, which are exclusive to 5G SA and which are needed to support more and more use cases. And we do see that. Yeah. So next to slices and the latency I mentioned, it is very important the security aspect. And 5G SA is secure by design. Yeah, and in the current global environment that we're living in, that is more important than ever. So what about the slices I just mentioned? Because that is always a little bit, yeah, what are you doing with slices nowadays? Do you have slices? Yeah, we have, yeah. And I think that we as operators should invest in developing and deploying network slicing solutions to cater to the specific needs of various customer segments and industries. Yeah, I already touched before for the police force, the T-Mobile's T-Priority that we launched. But let me give you two more examples that we did do for large event experience, and most of you will know them. So at the Formula One Las Vegas Grand Prix, we had a network slicing successfully supported over 230 point of sale systems, ensuring efficient transactions for both the vendors and the attendees over this 4-day event. Yeah, where more than 300,000 people were coming together, and all on a very, very small location with not a lot of towers. And of course, you build up new towers, but you still, everybody is competing for those airwaves. Yeah, and similarly at the PGA Championship, a network slice was implemented to support payment terminals again, ticketing scanners, and push-to-talk servers for the event staff. Yeah, and with that, guaranteeing seamless transactions and real-time communication. Can you imagine that you're at the start of this event and you want to enter, and the ticketing scanner is waiting every time 10 seconds because it's competing with somebody else going onto Facebook? Yeah, it would create enormous queues. So I think that this is very important for us as operators, yeah, to establish ourselves into this arena, yeah, and to support that growth demand that we all will see.
That we're seeing, that's great, Mark, and some good examples as well. Quickly, Greg, your thoughts on that? One recommendation for the operator community.
So definitely, like I mentioned, one size will not fit all soon. So they will need to extend their quality measures, their applications as well, to support those specific use cases. Some of them mentioned already by Mark. Definitely, still we have to bear in mind that today we are in between 4G, 5G NSA and 5G SA, but still there's a lot of 2G, 3G networks. There's a lot of sunsetting networks. We have like new solutions, VoLTE enabler, for example. We have the hit really on eSIM. So all those also business services that are being provided Some of them, might require also different quality of service. So everything, it has to be taken into consideration, and if that's possible, embedded in the network across like domestic and roaming real market. So
Great.
keep the quality at a certain level.
Ilanna, anything to add to that?
Yes, if I may, of course, I will. I will talk about the steering. So I believe that for 2025, the slices probably for the steering platform, I'm talking about the steering, will not be the first priority. Yeah, I think the focus need to be on the voltage steering, on the adaptive steering. If someone not implemented the IoT special steering, then as well, and if someone already thinking about launching the 5G SA roaming, then to go to the first approach with the signaling-based approach for the steering. This I would summarize as a focus for 2025.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you guys for your valuable input. I'm sure this will help industry understand the future direction of roaming and value-added services in a better way. But we've had some questions come in, but let me pause now. I'll hand over to John for next steps.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan, and thank you so much, Greg, Mark, Ilanna, just for those viewpoints as well. I think that was fantastic and really helpful to everyone. We have gone over time today. We're aware that we're over the hour mark, and many of you have other meetings to go to, so we are going to draw a line on it today. I think for those people who have been asking questions, Emmanuel, Christine, Razel, Rignesh, we will be coming back to you afterwards. Don't worry, we've just unfortunately run out of time today. But thank you so much for joining. I think it shows the importance of this conversation, and I hope what we've discussed today is really helpful for you internally. Do keep an eye on your mails as well for those resources, the recording, the paper that's going to be coming after this as well. And I think, I'm sure I can speak for all panelists saying that if you have other questions or follow-up that you want to have with any one of them, I'm more than happy to be in touch and keep the dialogue going on this topic, either online or at an event coming up. But for now, yeah, we'll draw it to a close. Again, thank you so much for being with us today, and we look forward to speaking with you all soon. Take care.
Thank
and
you.
Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.